Sorry, Mac, to confirm, are we good? You did.
Yeah, we're good.
10-4, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. If you'll please join me in a pledge to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And at this time, we are going to have an approval of the agenda. Before we do so, the minutes from the previous meeting were not able to be added to the consent agenda due to technical difficulty. So before a motion to accept the agenda has been made, please consider that we do not have minutes, and I'd like that reflected in the agenda for today. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to approve.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there a second? All right. It's been motioned and seconded on, in discussion. On favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. We'll now go into an introduction of our Elko County School District Student Board Member, Shirley Huckins.
Okay, this is Shirley Huckins, and she participates in a variety of sports at Elko High School, including football, wrestling, and track. At Elko High School, she is involved in the Key Club, FCCLA, FFA, PEP Club, and peer mentoring. She comes from a family of Elko High School alumni. 2 of her 4 older siblings graduated from Elko High School, as did her father. Her mother attended school in Las Vegas. She loves Elko High School and is excited for this opportunity to get involved on behalf of her school with the Elko County School District School Board. Welcome.
You'll have time throughout the meeting, but is there anything you'd like to add currently?
No.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Item 1.05 is to receive a Liberty Learning presentation from Liberty Peak Elementary. This is a non-action item. Mr. Steenson, if you and your team would like to come up.
So thank you, guys. It is a privilege to bring some of our students here. We'll do a brief introduction of the important people. Normally I'd say the smaller ones, but I don't want Ms. Tilger to get confused with what we're talking about, so short jokes. We've got Tinley Gilliland, Aslan Price, Caden and Dylan Middleton, Kai Trigija, Zonti Ward, Talia Talaveras Cervantes, and Josiah Imperial, who are all 4th and 5th graders, minus Dylan. No, 4th. I get stuck in years and again. They're here to help us do a little bit of presentation. Our general flows, I'll give you some background, then we wanted some of the students to just talk about their experiences as well as some of the advisors, teachers to kind of fill in. And so with Liberty Learning, it kind of started for us 3 years ago. Miss Blanchard spearheaded an awesome opportunity for our school, for our district, with the Nevada Portrait of a Learner. Her, as well as Jessica Thomas, Amber Trigija, Carrie Pollard, Shannon Porter, and Desiree Tilger, took on an action to be able to take a look at some competencies that the state was trying to roll out and say, hey, there's a lot of areas. What can we do? How can we start some of this work? They were given carte blanche, not a lot of guidance, but kind of going, let's learn from it. And they took the area of impact and kind of ran with the general thought of who am I and how will I contribute to make an impact? So they started getting kids into that mindset in their classrooms. A lot of them did it just with their single classes, giving them presentations, exposures, different things to look at job skills, exploration of different skills, different mindsets of workforce, anything from running the show to hey, what's it take to be the boots on the ground and everything in between. To kind of skip forward 2 steps, as a district, we've been looking at the Nevada Future of Learning, also trying to shift ownership of learning from teachers. We're telling you what to do. We're giving you the standards. We're doing a bunch to also letting the kids drive and have some of that choice in their own education. A lot of research that basically says if the kids are bought in and doing things, they're going to be more apt to want to do it and learn versus somebody barking orders and telling. So we kind of came up with another general thought of what if we had authentic project-based learning intentionally integrated for all students. So that was a piece that Ms. Blanchard and I wrestled with. How do we get this to all of our kids? Because we kind of had silos. And so to make it manageable, we decided to start simple with our 4th and 5th grade. And so we created a designated class times within our schedule where every 4th and 5th grade rotates. They get a choice of classes that they can go attend, have a say in. We've worked at different ways of quarterly. We've done some smaller sides where it was every 4 weeks and just making it mini as we were trying to build it. Got feedback from teachers, feedback from kids. How does this work? What's an ample amount of time, but not too much? In this quarter or this year, we're kind of working on a quarter system where every quarter they have the opportunity to choose a different class, or some of them that can continue, like our newspaper, they can be in it all year long and continue to work on those projects. So it definitely gave the students choice of their learning. It was kind of a trick on our side. How do we trick them into those educational skills of reading, writing, speaking, listening, presenting? This week they're spending today 3 of our classes, and then tomorrow and Thursday the other ones will present, and they've got to basically present to their peers. Here's what my class is about. Here's what I've learned. Here's what we're doing. So they're learning some of those skills, which they'll also, some of our select ones will be putting on display today. And so with that, here's a couple, or not a couple, here's a list of our examples of classes that we've had. Some of them have ran a couple times, the healthy living walkie-talkie. We had a teacher that embraced that piece, getting kids walking around the campus, talking through their problems with peers, getting outside, getting fresh air. It was one of her passions. She retired last year, and at this point, everybody had theirs, since that was one that didn't get picked back up, but definitely had some value. Some of them are pretty fun to look at, where again, the Peaceful Zombie Prep 101. When that one first hit my desk, it was kind of chuckle, tell me a little bit about it and the basic nuance, which is one that we'll actually talk about today, is based on the premise of what happens when the internet goes out. What do you do when there's no power? What do you do when it's 1980 back over and these guys have no exposure of that? And so again, a non-tech class, which has been pretty cool to see some of the things that are taking place. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to, actually, I'll go through some of these before I turn it over to the students. Here's some examples, some things that we wanted to emphasize. We've done the Reader's Theater, Greek theater, getting kids thinking about it. Our teachers, Miss Porter, actually took this one when she had it in her class and utilized the great resource of the high-tech center, the Performing Arts Theater at Elko High, and got the kids in and started talking about theater. What is the background stuff? So again, when looking at entrepreneurship and jobs, it can be on the stage, reading poetry. It's also the technicians behind. And even though we think about theater, how many different ways does that impact, and how many ways can you go into theater based upon your interests? Ag in the classroom. We had a group of students last year get grow lights, build their own. They had to assemble the shelves themselves. They built a hydroponics system rather than buying one and putting it together. Ms. Toger, Mr. Priest did an awesome job of again, going out and saying, hey, if we buy a bin, what are the parts, the pumps, the tubing? Would have been a lot easier to just buy the kit and get the kids going. They did have one to use as an example, but that was part of the challenge of take what you've learned from this kit and build your own. Was a lot of challenge. Some parts worked well. There were some learning curves on the adults of the weekend. And, when kids are, helping fill things, water and electricity, and sorting out a couple pumps, part of a learning curve. But again, I guess better for some of them to experiment on our school dime versus their own. So I think still important lessons learned. Some other examples is our student senate. They help us with our morning announcements, pledges, welcoming students. We even had a student teacher. It was kind of a piece that Ms. Blanchard and I talked about of high schools, teacher shortages. How do you get kids started early of going, hey, I love teaching and want to be part of that. So we just kind of went with our 4th, 5th graders working down with our kindergarten crews and doing some read alouds, getting some of that experience, again, to hopefully plant a little seed that in 6 years when they graduate, they'll then turn around and go, hey, maybe I want to go to GBC, UNR, wherever else and become an educator and help us with the shortage that we're having with educators. Another couple areas that we wanted to emphasize, our staff senators or student senators wrote a letter petitioning to SFE, kind of saying, hey, our lunch menu is kind of bland. It's the same thing repeating. Here's some things that we would like to see. Katie Nelson was gracious enough to listen, read some of theirs, respond to them, and actually made a couple changes last year based upon our students saying, hey, we would like this or that added, what could be the case. Some of it, she said, lasagna, expense, effort, we probably can't do, but we can do a spaghetti or something similar. So again, gave our students the opportunity to look at advocating, voicing out, and then talking and seeing some change from that. One of the popular ones that we've got is lifetime skills. Definitely being an outdoor person myself, we've got a couple teachers who built a unit, included families where they've done field trips up to through the Rubies, a short jump from our school, but they taught them how to fish, how to bait a line, how to cast. Mr. Middleton caught the first part of a sushi roll with some algae, but it was still pretty good. They had to build campfires safely, talked about fire safety rings, build s'mores, roast hot dogs. And then again, it was an awesome opportunity. As you can see in the pictures of parents joining us, getting into the schools and doing the field trip with their kids to experience those things. We've also got Morse code that we'll kind of talk about, but the unique story behind that one. Hopefully I don't share or steal too much thunder, but Jim is one of our custodians. He does an awesome job. The kids love him. And he happened to be walking by and kind of seeing, hey, here's radios, that zombie prep. What do we do if you don't have cell phones? What do you do if you can't text? And he kind of went, I have a ham radio license. I've got some of the equipment for Morse code. And so Ms. Tilger, Ms. Santos talked him into coming in and talking with our crew. Here's what it looks like. Here's where those were. And again, just incorporating people with that experience that we had on campus. Some girls talking with our building superintendents. Again, here's some of our hot spots. Here's some changes that we would like to make, whether it be playground, some safety issue areas, things that they thought needed to be addressed. And so it's awesome that we would set up some of those time for them to be able to speak, talk, and do what they needed to advocate and have a say in their school. Some of the other pictures are pretty straightforward. Chess clubs, working on puzzles, STEM, robotics. We've had some action items. We had one student create an animal drive where they were looking for food, bedding, and stuff to donate to the local animal shelter. So we ran that one, collected items. This year we did a card making drive where students created cards for the holidays during their counseling time and sent those to Highland Manor. And again, that was created, that idea was generated by Zante, I believe that was yours, correct? Student where it was, hey, what can we do as a service project? And he created that idea. We helped facilitate it and delivered. I think it was in the hundreds of cards where, some of them were simple, some of them had good messages. Had students come up and say, hey, we need a kindness week, created a schedule. Here's what the weeks are. Here's what we're trying to advocate. And then this one's an example of a dojo post that we put out to parents where our school newspaper creates a hyperlink, puts it out, and then shares it with our entire family source of here's the articles that the students are writing, things that they feel are important to them. They take the pictures, they come in and do interviews, whether it's teachers that they spotlight, and then we digitally make that available to all of our students and families. Last but not least, some soap carving, working with SFE on the foods prep side of things, as well as when we do some of the food things, have brought in Miners Java, talking about the business side. What's it take to have a food truck? I even learned some things there as a non-business guy I just assumed they could pull in anywhere, and she kind of went, nope, we've got to get invited. When she explained things made sense, but it was quite entertaining or informational for me as an administrator, much less the kids. They had some awesome questions, talked about the business side. How do you make profits? You know, they'd ask some of those questions. What would you sell it for? And then, well, here's what it takes. You're going to go broke if you're trying to give it away or be the nice guy. So finding that balance. And then we had, Beetlejuice created their own business there, as well as cupcakes, and the kids kind of took place with some of those entrepreneurship type events. And so with that being said, I know you don't want to hear much more from me, so we'll turn it over to, I said first we'll go with our kind of zombie crew with Miss Santos, Miss Tilger, and Caden and Dylan.
All right, so what do you do with 40 extra school day minutes, right? We felt very passionate that kids today are losing sight of skills that don't involve a phone and a screen. So we thought, how could we encourage them to explore things that don't involve screens? Or maybe how could we encourage activities that we know how to do that maybe they don't have at home or have, never done before. So we brought in Peaceful Zombie Prep, which is just essentially, we like to call it the granny class, like the granny craft. So we do everything from crochet to chess. We've done knife safety and soap carving. And as you found out, we did Morse code. I myself am not a ham radio tech, but I knew it was something kids liked. So we had just a little alphabet that I found on the internet and was teaching them, short and long. And as you saw, Jim saw this on my desk and said, oh no, let me show you, we can do better. So this is Dylan and Caden, and they're going to talk about what they've learned with Liberty Learning.
So what we have here is my name is Caden. What we have here is our Morse code reader. You press this and it makes a beep. We have dots and dashes, and we have the alphabet. And then we haven't got to the numbers yet because some of the numbers are harder than just doing letters with dots and dashes and normal with just the letters. And then we have learned how to do sentences, just words. And then we haven't got to paragraphs yet, but that's a new goal. And then then we got it from our janitor, who thought that it was nice that we wanted to learn this stuff, and he has his own hand radio license. So then he made this and gave it to us. So the sound, when you press the button, it makes like a beep sound. So then I'm gonna spell like school. And then if we got to the point where we could do paragraphs, which is what our goal is. But we also wanted to kind of get to the numbers. So then hopefully we could soon write the paragraphs of about, we could do with the numbers and the letters all mixed together. We could do a paragraph, maybe some other ideas with the Morse code reader, and then we could I don't know.
Thank you. Good job. And then Tinley is going to show you what she knew.
Okay, so my name is Tinley, and in Zombie Prep 101, one of the choices we did was crocheting, and I learned a lot from it. I learned different patterns and different steps, and that you have to be very patient, and it's really helps when you're stressed. And I crocheted this hat. So I also crocheted a few other things, but Zombie Prep 101, it's really cool because you gotta learn new things, and sometimes it's just really relaxing when you need to be calm or just relax from a rough day or something. So like I gotta do crocheting and learn different patterns from Miss Silver and Miss Santos, because they really helped. And I have a friend who crochets and like she's been helping me too with learning different patterns too. But a lot of it has been learning how to crochet. It's just been so fun because you just gotta learn a new thing and it's just calm, really relaxing. So you can like just chill and like have a nice day. So thank you.
So my name is Mrs. Porter. I help lead the Eating Around the World course. And the idea started with how do I get kids to first care about their learning? How do I get them to understand why I teach them math and writing and reading? And it kind of honed into this idea, well, everyone likes food. So by starting this course, our students, and Kai will tell you a little bit more, they were able to pick a recipe that they found that they liked, create a business plan after talking with some of our guest speakers, and then apply their reading and their writing into something creative that is going to be a lifelong skill. So this is Kai. He is going to share a little bit about his experience with his business.
Liberty Learning is the best part of Liberty Peak because you get to go to other classrooms and learn new things like languages, outdoor survival, and cooking. When I was in the cooking class, I made my own food stand. We learned about business with Miners Java and then created our own. Mine was called Beetlejuice Express, and we sold cupcakes. I learned to work with a team, bake and decorate cupcakes, and share second graders. This quarter, I took Spanish, and next quarter, I'd like to be in newspaper. Liberty Learning is a great way to learn new things.
And last but not least, we have 4 of our student senators.
Each quarter, Student Senate brainstorms on ways they want to improve for our school and culture by voting. Past projects have included kindergarten helpers, adding a new item to our school lunch menu, video announcements, or character traits trying to talk to the other students of the school.
My name is Talia, and in Student Senate, we have this thing called a character trait every month. And there's a coloring sheet that students will fill out. One of the teachers decides which 3 winners will be chosen on the top 3 to be put on the board. The student senators have to put them up and they have to rearrange everything in its order. Another thing we did was a presentation for kindergartners and pre-K. It was about the big 3, which is making smart decisions, maximizing potential, and treating others right. And I did maximizing potential because we felt the need for them to understand how important it is.
In Student Senate, I created a play for kindergarten and preschool about the big 3. The big 3 is making smart decisions, treating others right, and maximizing potential. I came up with the Making Smart Decisions play. I also helped my peers by typing up their scripts.
My name is Hasan, and I helped by narrating the entire play. I also came up with the script for treating others right. We chose to do this because we wanted to teach pre-K and kinder about the big 3.
Student Senate impacted me to teach it. We also talked about it so much, it's carved in my brain. It really helped. It really helped me to see the importance of the big 3. It also made me more responsible. For example, it helped me turn in my homework more.
It impacted me by helping me with my organization and managing my time. It also helped me with being more responsible with my homework too. It helps me with understanding the importance of the big 3 and the importance of my peers.
So that concludes kind of our general Liberty Peak, Liberty Learning presentation. Again, I'd like to give these eight another big round of applause. They did an awesome job. Better than I would have at 9 and 10 years old. And so we appreciate all of that. That concludes. If you got any questions, we'd be happy to house those. And if not, we'll let you continue with your meeting.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I love seeing the diverse areas that you guys are exploring. Morse code, that's awesome. I don't know if you know that Elko County was where the first transcontinental telegraph line actually was joined over in Wendover. And so that has a big part of the history here. That might be fun to look into for you, but seeing all you're doing, the outdoor stuff, and your 3 concepts there, that's really awesome. You guys keep it up.
Do you guys really do anything with the high school? Because I know here with our ag in the classroom, we do it with the high school. So I was wondering if you guys do it with the high school or ever thought about doing it with the high school? Because I know personally in FFA, we love to go down and help them with ag in the classroom and everything like that. So.
Gotcha. So with the initial concept, our philosophy was keeping it small and then trying to grow. One thing I will mention, our 3rd grade's kind of joining on, but theirs is going to look at just doing whole class rotations where they can get kind of the concept of moving before kids get to 4th and 5th. Some of our staff have talked about some of those things of how do we get the high school honor society down to support us with some of our things. How do we get them over into the ag rooms and things that are on other campuses? And so, so far it's just been field trips of that part, but we're trying to make it successful and not expand too quick that we fall apart and spread ourselves too thin, but have been conversations, and that's awesome that from a young adult side at the high schools of willing to get back that way as well is also a great idea. So.
I just want to say that I think your presentation was spectacular. You guys are really impressive kids, and I look forward to the future when I see kids like this and schools that are teaching our kids these things. And I just think it's amazing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the creativity from our educators and then the willingness from our students to jump into something that might be a little bit different. So good job all around. Thank you. Let's give them one more round of applause.
Thank you.
.06 is recognition of our December S.T.A.R.S recipients. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Gonna go ahead and recognize, we were able to recognize our other 2 December S.T.A.R.S recipients last meeting, and we have 1 left. I actually haven't looked around the room. Is Jeanette here? Oh, yeah. Hi, Jeanette. Come on up to the in front of everybody right there. Yep. Just what you hoped for. So Jeanette Dean, even before she was nominated for this award, was already a rock star. Jeanette is an incredible English language teacher, EL teacher in our district. Some campuses have a licensed teacher that does that job, and others have a paraprofessional that fulfills that role. And sometimes we get a little bit of both, depending on the size of a campus. But Jeanette's been doing this for a while, and I'm going to read the nomination that was submitted for her. The person who nominated her wishes to remain anonymous. I don't know if you sleuthed it out who it was yet or not, but we're never going to tell. So here is what this person said. I am pleased to nominate Miss Jeanette Dean for the S.T.A.R.S Award. As an English language development teacher at Mountain View Elementary School, Miss Dean possesses many qualities that make her highly deserving of this honor. Below, I will highlight some of her most notable attributes. Miss Dean is passionate about meeting the needs of every student in her classroom, fostering a love for learning that she instills in all of her students. She creates a culturally responsive, inclusive, and engaging environment where diverse learners can thrive. Her ability to make the challenging task of learning a new language seem effortless, fun, and achievable is truly remarkable. By using multimodal teaching strategies, including visuals, gestures, movement, music, manipulatives, technology, and art, she ensures that all students are able to participate and succeed. In her classroom, language is celebrated as an asset, and Miss Dean works hard to help students maintain and value their heritage languages. She is committed to her professional development, continually enhancing her skills through coursework, webinars, conferences, and independent research. Ms. Dean also carefully plans lessons that complement those of the general education teachers while helping students set and achieve academic goals. Additionally, I have seen Ms. Dean navigate challenging situations with parents, staff, and students by focusing on solutions rather than assigning blame. She gives selflessly of her energy, always prioritizing her students' success. On one occasion, I observed her greeting students with music and dancing outside the school during bus duty, engaging each student individually with a warm hello and asking how they were doing. Ms. Dean also maintains strong communication with parents, actively involving them in the academic success of their children. Her thoughtful approach helps foster a strong community of support around her students. And then they urged us to consider her for the award, which we certainly did. So I just, again, having known of Jeanette and what she does, I love that I know she's very passionate about her students and those students receiving all the supports they need in order to be successful despite whatever troubles they're experiencing or difficulties or transitions, anything like that. And then I told her this the day of, but I also love that this person noticed that you help students to maintain and value their heritage language. Something a lot of people don't know about me, just whether it's from looking at me or just not knowing me, is my degree is in the Spanish language. My teaching profession was Spanish language, and I lived in a foreign country for multiple years and grew to love the language and those people. And what I know is from my studies is that if you can maintain that in children, they're all the better for it moving on. I know there was a time in our country when it was like, it's English and you got to have English to survive. But we know now through brain science and historical studies that those kids are all the greater if they can maintain that language while learning a new language, and so they can thrive in their new environment. And so I love that you do that, and you help those kids see their language as an asset. And I've talked too much, and you're more than deserving of the S.T.A.R.S Award, so congratulations, Jeanette.
Thank you so much. I'm so great. Thanks.
Please come on up. We'd like to shake your hand.
My interpreter. The entire.
Thank you again, Ms. Dean. 1.07 is input from the public. At this time, we can go into public comment. If you are here for an item, you're also welcome to speak during that item. For public comment, this is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed session, a personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item on the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Is there any public comment at this time? All right. Moving along, we'll go to 2.01.
Hey, Matt. Sorry, President
Please.
McCarty.
Yes, CJ, Superintendent Anderson.
I did the goof up. I do like a third of the time and forgot to mention our sponsors for the S.T.A.R.S Award. Can I see?
You even asked me about that, and
Oh,
usually I try to keep an eye on that too.
Can I read that, or
Would you please
would I be
read
breaking
that? I would
protocol?
appreciate if you would
So,
acknowledge our sponsor.
The S.T.A.R.S Award, for those, like, it comes along with some goodies. The staff who win the S.T.A.R.S Award get some nice stuff, and we don't spend taxpayer dollars on those nice things. We're able to do those through kind donations from businesses and people. And so I just want to make sure to mention them. Thank you to Generous donations from the Rotary Club of Elko Desert Sunrise, Leanne's Floral Designs, always beautiful bouquets that we're able to give our recipients, Maverick Gaming, and the S.T.A.R Hotel. So I did it, Susan. I did it. All right. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries at all. Thank you. Okay, 2.01 is receipt, review, and possible approval of the 2025-2026 school calendar. This is for possible action. The school calendars are created by a committee consisting of representatives from the Teachers Union, ECCTA, the Classified Employees Union, ECSSO, and the School Site Administrators Association, ECSSAA. This year, there were 5 different calendars created and presented to all members of each union for discussion and then a vote. They used a rank order voting system, and the attachment is the one that was chosen by the ECSD employees. Before we get too much into this, I want to let folks know we received a whole lot of emailed comments, and thank you very much for that. Up until about 4 o'clock, I was trying to respond, maybe 3:30. So anything that came in after that, I still have not yet responded to. And those that indicated that they would like their comments put into public record, a comment or a printout of their email will be included for the official minutes. Or do we want to start discussion first, or would we like to entertain public comment?
It might be a good idea to talk a little bit first because that may mitigate some of those comments or help to consolidate them.
Okay, I'm hearing one of each.
Not that I don't want to hear from everyone, but.
Sure. Let's go ahead and start with our kind of thoughts and whatnot. And that, as you said, that may alleviate some of the public comment. Go ahead, Jeff.
If you don't mind, I'd start out. We had quite a few of the comments referencing weather and what our buildings can handle. And I went on a little dive on WeatherSpark and looked up the last 3 years of August and September temperatures, as well as June. And what I've found is that you might think that, yeah, it's going to be hotter a week earlier in August, but it turns out it really isn't. And if it is, it's by a degree or two. It's not a significant amount. And in fact, 2 years ago, I want to say in 2022, the hottest days of the year were actually in September. So that wasn't something that we were going to miss, but you're in 90-degree temperatures pretty much all the way through August, September, and through the beginning of June. So if we're shifting those weeks from, end of June to early August, you're still going to experience those same temperatures. And what I would suggest regarding these issues, maybe if we have some with buildings, those are more to do with ability we have to fix those and capital improvement funds and such, to where it should be addressed more that way. I think the schools should be able to be open regardless of what time of year it is. We should have systems in place there. Another one that was specific to where I live in Wendover was Speed Week, but I looked that up, and that is from August 2nd through the 8th. So that would not conflict with the start date of the 11th. And that being said, there were a lot of talk about people have already planned their vacations and planned their, or they have jobs, or for instance, like if they're cutting hay and that's season to pull that. I'm sensitive to all that too, but we've received a multitude of comments on those types of things. And I just wanted to point out those facts there, both on the weather and when Speed Week was.
Thanks, Jeff. Additional comments? Mr. Josh, or comments at all? Josh, go ahead.
I'm just going to confirm, what we did. I do want to start though with thank you so much for the comments, and the majority of them, I would say in the upwards of 90% were very respectable, were very thoughtful. And I do appreciate that. And I want to make sure that's said, because in previous subjects that might not have been the case. And so save a couple Facebook posts that seem to not understand the process of school district. I think that we had a very good slice of what our community is looking at. And so I appreciate that, but absolutely. And I absolutely love that you deep dive into the weather of Elko County. So that's full. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you look at it, like what you think it is, right? What we think and perceive, and then what we go and look at the data and we're like, oh, I don't remember. Okay, it was really hot in my house that week, I guess. So But that's all I wanted. Just, I appreciate everybody's comments. I've read every single, everything that's emailed to me and has been sent to me from Facebook because I don't get on that anymore. Just so that I can have an understanding of where our community's at. So I fully appreciate it. And the majority of you, vast majority of you, were very positive, even if it, was a comment that wasn't taken by a fellow citizen very well. So I appreciate all that.
Thank you, Josh. Susan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, thank you to everyone who put the calendar together because I'm sure that was a lot of work. So I appreciate that. As well as all the comments made by all of those that emailed. I guess for me, I have questions in my head. I put down like the pros and the cons. I'm not sure I ever remember the calendar being such a hot topic.
It wasn't just, I'm so sorry. In 2017, there were 3 comments on Facebook. So I'm just letting you know. I looked at probably 200 based on 3 or 4 different posts from different people. So you're absolutely correct. In 2017, 3 comments total on Facebook. So
Yeah, it just isn't. And probably, I'm assuming the biggest thing is because it's starting earlier. So I guess comments from me were people that have plans already. That seems like a point that could be a problem. I do see the benefits of having first semester end at Christmas break, although some of the people I talked to didn't seem to think it mattered when it was. So it's a tough one based on what everybody has said. It brought up a lot of questions, like summer school programs. How does that impact those getting teachers to teach summer school along with the kids themselves? About grading. Do finals have to be graded and done before they go to Christmas break? Does it happen during Christmas break? Because I don't know the answer to that one. Some of the cons were like you mentioned, the ranching families, jobs perhaps, trips that are planned just because it doesn't seem sudden, but it is in a sense. I know it's still a ways off, but with schools you plan far ahead. So those are just kind of things that I'm just floating around in my head that have been said.
Thank you, Susan. Adriana, Brooke, go ahead, Adriana.
Well, another comment that I seen was about sports. And for what I understand, they already start practicing before school starts. So, and have to, I don't know when exactly they start practicing. And I don't know if it's how many students are in sports and how many families are going to be affected by that. So that's it.
If I could speak to that, those are determined by NIAA, and that schedule is set already. Our change in the school calendar wouldn't affect sports really in any way. As far as when those games and such are scheduled, they're typically starting before our school starts. That's part of where we're considering this change.
Thanks for that clarification, Jeff. Brooke?
So I have a lot of thoughts. I sent CJ, I don't know, 20 questions maybe. Yeah.
You wish
35.
it was that low.
I, like Susan said and Josh said, I'm really appreciative of all of the phone calls that I've received, text messages that I've received, people who've stopped me in person and talked to me about it, and all the emails. I may have missed a few that got sent in later at the end of this day. But I'm really appreciative for everybody who's taken the time to share their opinions and their thoughts on this matter with us. Because I have a husband who grew up in a ranching family, the first thing that we talked about when I brought this up with him is that there's going to be, this calendar, if approved, would impact different, like rural schools in a different way than it would impact a school like Elko High School. And that's because a lot of those families have kids that are still helping hay that time of year. They're right in the busiest time of year for fair, and lots of these kids are earning money, working, haying at the ranch to be able to save up to pay for college. They're using their money that they're earning from their market steers and lambs and different things like that to pay for college. I just think that I'm very appreciative of the effort that was put into putting these calendars together and to know where the union members stand and how they feel about the calendars. But I also think that the process to go about picking a calendar maybe needs to be revised a little bit. I know that it is, it says that it shall be established through negotiation process. And so I would like to see more of a negotiation process with this. I think about teachers have unions and administrators have unions and our classified staff have unions. And our communities, our students and parents have us as a school board. And so I just really feel like before we make a decision that impacts the community and not just teachers, that we need to have more input from all stakeholders before we can make a decision that literally can affect people's businesses, people's ranching operations, and families' lives. And so I would like to see some more input, maybe some type of a poll taken or sent out to parents on different calendar options. And I would also love to see, I know that it's part of the negotiation process that the unions have a say in the calendar. But I would also love to see, I know in our community, only about 71% of teachers are in a union. I would love to see where the rest of our teachers stand and what their thoughts and opinions are on the calendar. And that would help me as a board member make a better decision for something that affects the entire community. It really does. So, and then my last thought is the two calendars that as a board, we saw all 5 calendars, but the 2 calendars that were revoted on by the unions, I felt like were really extreme calendars in different ways. One of them was similar to what we're doing now, where we're starting the Monday before Labor Day, but then we're not going to any of the Fridays after a Monday holiday. And so then it's putting us out, our last day of school was June 11th. And so you have that extreme. And then the other calendar that got the most votes was starting 2 weeks early, not working the Fridays when we have a Monday holiday, and then getting out at the end of May. And I feel like if we as a board vote for either of those 2, we're going to have 50% of the community that doesn't work for if we pick either of those options. And so in my mind, I feel like you look at those 2 calendars, and as a board, my direction back to the unions would be, and this is something that we would have to decide as a board, but my opinion is that you take those 2 calendars and you try to compromise and find something in the middle, something more similar to some of the other calendars on there where we're starting 1 week early, which gives you the benefit of ending the semester before Christmas break. You work the Fridays when you have a Monday holiday so that we're not tacking an extra week of school onto the school year and taking that away from our students' summers when that's the only time their families get to have them. I'm one of those moms where I have 4 boys and I'm counting down the summers I have left with my kids. That's important family time for me and I don't want it taken away. But I think we could go back to the drawing board and we could find something that's more of a compromise in between where we start a week early, still have the benefits of ending the semester before Christmas break, work the Fridays when we have the Monday holidays, and still get out of school at the end of May and not go clear till June 11th. I think that there's got to be a way that we can compromise so that more people in our community, the calendar will work for more people in our community. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Brooke. Teresa, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Matt. I actually have a lot of thoughts on this, but I know there are quite a few people in the audience that came to share their thoughts. I have read all the emails. I've seen social media. I appreciate the comments the board have already shared, and I have a lot of the same feelings, so I won't re-express those. But I'd love to hear the public comment, and then continue with our discussion. I'll have more to say after I hear public comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So before we go into public comment, then I am going to attempt to do this. Hopefully I can share a screen that had 8 items from both in opposition to and in favor of the proposals. These are not the only comments. These were the ones that seemed to be fairly regular or repeating. There were a couple that were very specific. Jeff mentioned Speed Week. There were, I think, 2 that did mention Speed Week, and not to indicate that our friends to the east of us aren't important, but that was very specific, a one-time thing that I did not add on to this. So as we get into public comment, and for the sake of not having, us extend too late into the evening, if there's something that's already up here that you're in agreement with, then perhaps just say, I like 2, 3, and 4 in opposition, or whatever it may be. Looks like it cut off just a little bit. So the top one is in opposition to, the bottom one is in favor of. A couple of clarifying points as well. All calendars being considered are still 150 days of school. What matters is whether it, when it starts and when it ends. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. This does not minimize or add to the number of days or the number of minutes within the total amount of time. And there was one other point that I know came up fairly regularly, and I don't recall what that was now, that I wanted to say. Oh, actually, it had to do with sports. As Jeff mentioned, the NIAA controls sports schedules. We cannot control sports schedules no matter when we start school or when we end school. The schedules are the schedules. We can't do anything to that. Theoretically, an earlier start of the year would mean that those student athletes would actually get more of their summer because they would be in school when the games start, if we go too far forward into August. So just wanted to put those 2 out. And I apologize, before we get to public comment, Hillary, as a board member, do you, Shirley, not Hillary, Shirley, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
A little bit on the sports aspect, as yes, it wouldn't affect our game schedule. It would affect our practice schedule, our tryout schedule, everything like that, because volleyball and football have a very similar and very same time for tryouts, which is always that first couple days in August, which means we would have to bump it up even sooner, which means open gyms would have to start sooner. But that also could be an issue because with the NIAA, we can only start practices so soon. So I think that's another thing to think about. Another thing is that with us ending before Christmas, I know a lot of kids do appreciate us if we did end before Christmas, because then they have that 2 weeks to rejuvenate and to really look over the last semester, get ready for the new semester instead of just trying to jump back to back. So.
Can I
Thank you.
say
Sure.
something about, there's mention of calendars, but there's only one calendar on the agenda. So just want to point that out. We're only looking at that one.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to bring that up as well. After the agenda was posted, there was a potential change in votes. As was mentioned, there was a second vote. That second vote resulted in no change to the calendar, but there was a request to add additional calendars. And under Nevada open meeting law, our board legal counsel advised against doing that. So that's why there is only one calendar. We may reference multiple calendars because we've seen multiple calendars. There may be discussion within the community of multiple calendars, but today we're reviewing only one calendar. So thank you, Susan, for that clarification. With
Matt,
that,
can I also clarify one
Please.
other thing really quickly? When you
Go
say
ahead,
that
Susan.
the calendar was voted on, that was voted on by the unions, not by the board.
Yes, thank you. Good
Just wanted to
clarification.
clarify that.
Yeah, we have not voted yet as a board. So we'll go into public comment. Courtney Wallace is asking to speak. So I'll turn that over to Courtney first, and then we'll go ahead and have folks that want to speak come on up to the menu or to the microphone.
Matt. Timing.
Thank you. And before you begin, Ms. Wallace, Susan, if you could time, that would be great. And we are going to try to keep this to 3 minutes, folks. And so we mean no disrespect if we cut you off, but we just want to make sure we're moving forward on that.
Got it. Yeah, my teenagers say thank you for the concept of moving finals before Christmas break. They hate coming back and having to try to put it all back together after being on vacation. So that I really love. I do have questions because I've looked at information online says, and I don't know where to find good sources. So I'm hoping you can help me here. I want to understand why online it says we need to attend school for 180 days. I think that's like on the NCE. Let me look at the website. I was sorry to waste your time looking it up. But
I think we're familiar with that, but
you
go
are?
ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we do 150 days, which sweet. Do we make up that time by having longer school days? Yes. I'm just trying to understand this.
So
Yeah.
go ahead and go through your comments and we can respond as you go.
I just don't want to make a dumb comment, but anyway, without sounding too uneducated on this, I just want to say they go really long days. And I love the idea that we keep the 4-day week. And so I'm in favor of that and love that. And I'm also in favor of starting maybe a little earlier to get out a little earlier on Sunday. But like what Brooke said, I think maybe I'm wondering if there can be a little more compromise on the calendar. I've got kids who are in sports, and regardless of what the NIAA says, their coaches are starting them practicing somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks before school starts. I've got kids in student council who also have requirements to be at the school 2 weeks before school starts so they can get closets organized and events prepared and posters made and all the things. And so even though school starts, then that means my kids are back in school middle of July to the beginning of August before school starts. I'd love to see it backed off just a little bit, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't know. That probably puts us close to the time. But anyway, I like the idea of maybe compromising this. I know it was voted on by the union, but just as a parent, I would prefer not to start in the middle of August because for me, that actually looks like starting in the middle of July. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And to your point, yes, the 180 days versus the 150 days that we go to is because we're on the 4-day week. And so our days are lengthened and that's where that comes from.
Cool. And so that's how we get all the hours required to make up those days. Okay. Thank you for helping me.
Thank you very much. There was another public comment that was submitted, but I do not have a name on this person. So please come on up and just let us know your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Goss, and I'm excited that you guys are looking at changing the calendar. I agree with all of the points of why we should do this ahead of time. Fully agree with all of those. I'd like to actually see statistics. I'm also curious about statistics on how this affects the kids' education. What are the % of the kids that are in farming? What are the percentages of people that are affected by this? And I think that we need to do what's best for the majority of people. And we all make sacrifices. We all have to make new plans. This is something that you need to learn how to do throughout life. Jobs will change, managers will change, positions, I just think that this needs to be talked about more. I also think as far as, can we look at a 5-day week again? Why do we not have more options as to what this looks like? Have the test scores improved since we've gone to this 4-day? Has it gone down? What are the number of kids that are no longer participating in sports? Because my kid's a wrestler and he is gone 14 hours a day. And then we are gone. I spent 35 hours in the last 4 days this weekend in a wrestling gym. And he is there as well. There is no time. And in the summertime, it's just freedom. It's free, but it's this is affecting everybody's education. And in the end, we want children to be educated. I'm sorry if it affects Hang. I'm sorry if it we should be educating our kids, and that should be the number one thing. And I think we need to look at statistically how many people are affected by each one of these things. And I'm fully in favor of moving it beforehand so that the kids can enjoy their breaks. But I would like to actually see more options for a calendar, one that doesn't have my kid gone for 14 hours a day. Like, there are lots of places that do year-round school. You know, we need to educate these kids. That's number one. Everything else, people's sport, people's vacations, etc., those should be number two. So that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, additional public comment.
I really don't know if I do not see the piece of paper when I walk in to sign up. I am so sorry.
That's all right.
I am Jonathan Dahl. I'm a rancher in Star Valley. My kids go to Wells. One fun fact though, the Morse code, the Pony Express, when the state of Nevada became a state, couldn't get to DC in time. So they did a Morse code, 183 words by Morse code. Fun fact. And by the way, I don't want to sound crude because the last comment, I learned that at a tour at the state capitol. I did not learn that in school. The education part of it, my kids do learn education throughout the year, especially during summertime. They learn accounting, they learn how to work hard, and they learn how to treat people with respect and diligence. We do a custom farming business where we have 6 customers, and my kids are my primary laborers. They have to be able to follow an accountant, follow a budget. They have to communicate with their customers, and they have to be respectful and diligent. Education just doesn't stop when they go into school and when they leave school. They are always learning. My other concern about this school year, the proposal of the new calendar year, I have 2 nephews that play football. Hell Week is 2 weeks. The first week of August and the second week of August, then they have a game that Saturday. So the difference is I'm losing them for 4 hours a day, but it's early in the morning and late at night. I have them for work during the day. If you start school, how are they going to do 2-a-days? For sports. That's my question about that. It's actually going to impede sports. The other concern that I have one question. Do we need to have a spring break, a full week for spring break? If we cut spring break off, I know that's going to turn a lot of heads. If we cut off spring break, that will eliminate 1 week starting early. And the other thing is, I see that there's no fair day on the school calendar. I have 4 kids that are in the fair. We take our kids out Wednesday, Thursday to get prepared for the school, for fair. We have to consider that as well. I'm thankful for all the hard work that went into this. I know it's not easy to do a schedule. I put on a junior high basketball tournament and it takes me 3 weeks to even make a schedule for that. So I can just imagine the hard work that everybody has put into this. But is it going to impede me? Is it going to impede my kids going to school next year? Probably not. But will my life be a lot happier if it starts later? Yes, it will be a lot happier.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Additional public comment. Please come on up.
Sorry, I also did not sign a paper at the beginning. So I just had a quick question for the board. I heard a rumor that this would help us match the other Nevada schools. Is there any truth to that in any sense?
So directly, no, not every single district is the exact same.
Okay.
This would closely align us with, I believe, 6 other districts. In fact, if this calendar were approved, I believe it is 6 districts.
Six of them started this year, the 13th or earlier. 7 started on the 19th, and then 3, including us, started on the 26th.
And there's one that starts even later than us, isn't there? Lion. Okay.
I think I included that in. Oh, I didn't. So that's the one, that's the 17th. There we go.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crap, where's my pencil? I'm a student. I am in junior high. I am also John Dahl's daughter. Crap. Okay, I am Brinley Dahl. First off, I hate skipping school. Yes, I'd much rather be someplace else, but that's something I have to deal with. I would also like I get you guys are really like planned out your guys' schedules and all, but for fair, yes, we have a 4-day school week. I only make it to 2 days of school that week. And that's A days and B days. You also have the instructional days, which are the first 2 days. And then the last 2 days, you're actually learning something. I was also thinking about this all last night. I'm like, if we move a week back, yes, we would have to start on Tuesday, but I haven't finished thinking everything out yet. But here we are. If we start that first week of September, we'd have 2 full instructional days for the classes and everything. Then we'd have our learning days. Yes, we would still have to work in that first week of June. I'm fine with that. I have maybe 2 more weeks, depending on to have fun stuff, and then I can work the rest of that summer. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Dahl. Additional public comments? All right. Oh, come on up.
Waiting for everybody else. My name is Janae Riley. I have boys in high school and elementary school. And I'm a creature of habit. And so I just love that we start so late in the summer when it's hot, because I always feel like Memorial Day is still too cold to even go camping. And so that's why I like getting out in the first week of June, starting so late, because everybody else is already in school and my kids are like, we don't start yet. But also if we can, I feel like it's kind of sudden, like, why are we changing this right now when it's worked so well for so long? But like Brooke said, I would really like to see an amendment to it, because the 2 weeks into August, that's the best part of our summer for us and for, I know, a lot of people. And so if we could adjust that a little bit to maybe 1 week, or going to school on Friday when we have a Monday holiday, it's not the end of the world. So just, I guess, recommend that we adjust it, or don't maybe make a decision tonight on it, and do a poll.
Thank you very much, Ms. Riley. All righty. We're going to move on then back to board comments. Teresa, do you want to go ahead and start off this round?
Right, yeah, thank you, Matt. And I appreciate everyone who shared public comment. And again, I appreciate all those who shared it via email, phone calls, all those things. I will say in this case, I do agree with Brooke that I would like to see kind of a compromise on this calendar. I do feel like there were a lot of people that really feel like this is very sudden. Wow, we're suddenly starting 2 weeks earlier. We've got things planned. We need summer with our families. I'm like Brooke. I have got, 2 that have already graduated, 1 that graduates this year. And those summers with my kids are limited. I love having the time with my kids. They're involved in things, which is great. I love for them to be at school and learning, but I do feel like if we could take a step back and maybe look at a little bit of a compromise on this calendar, and not jump right into going to school on, the 11th of August. I think that would be good. Also, I grew up on a ranch. I paid for college with scholarships and with money I made from haying and from selling animals at the Elko County Fair. And, that may not be a large percentage of our student population, But to those kids, that might be the difference between them being able to afford college or not. And I don't think we should completely take that away if we can find a better compromise on a school start day. We do exceed the required Nevada minutes, so it would be possible to take almost 3.5 days off of our calendar. And, that doesn't look like a huge number, but it is possible, and that could move, the start date back a little bit. We could shorten up Christmas break, shorten up spring break. I'm totally in favor of the students who have finals being able to take those before Christmas break. I think that's fantastic. But at the moment, like I say, I agree with the sentiment of let's step back and ask for a redraft where we've got a little bit more of a compromise to try to meet the needs of all of our community.
Thank you, Teresa. And I apologize. As I mentioned earlier, we received quite a few emails. I think I had more than 3 dozen. And I tried to reply to most of them asking who they want, if anybody wanted into public record. Many of them, as I said, will be in public record. I had 2 that asked to be read into public record. So I should have done this before I turned it over to Teresa, so I apologize for that. Going back to public comment briefly, Danielle Ruffridge says, "Good afternoon. I'm writing to express my concerns for the upcoming proposed school calendar. I'm an employee and also a parent, and I strongly feel that this schedule will take away a lot of our summer vacation, which is vital for our students and staff's mental health. I also feel we will be spending a lot of money that could be used elsewhere to run the school's air conditioning because it's so hot at the beginning of August. The other concern I have is the 2.5 days of school after Memorial Day will be an absolute waste of time. There will be no time for any academics to be taught, and even if there were, the students will be checked out and there will be no learning going on. I also believe that there will be a lot of students absent that week, not to mention the contract time for employees that are not teachers." And I just lost the entire document. That's always fun. So, yeah, time's up, exactly. Let's see. The contract time for employees that are not teachers, we will need to adjust their contracts, making their paychecks match their time working. Please keep considering other schedules that do not have us starting our school year before summer's over. Sincerely, Danielle Ruffridge. The next one that I received was from Mr. I appreciate the encouragement, Josh. Thank you. Thanks for those positive affirmations. Mr. Curtis Moore. "I'm writing to express my support for the school calendar as presented on the agenda with the start date being August 11. The biggest advantage for me for this calendar is that it allows the holidays to actually be holidays rather than just an irregularity in the schedule. It is hard to stress the importance of Labor Day, Veterans Day, Martin Luther King Day, or President's Day when the students don't really get those days off. They just get shifted to later in the week. To properly recognize those days we call holidays, it is important to make those days really count. So I support the schedule as currently presented. Best, Curtis Moore." So those are the comments that I had received. Actually, those are a very small sample, but those 2 had requested that I read it into the record. So.
I also had one that was
Please.
requested to read into the record.
Go ahead, Brooke.
And I apologize if I read the name wrong. "Good evening, Brooke. My name is Courtney Nalivka? Okay. And I'm a parent to 2 Elko County School District students. I'm emailing you regarding my concerns with the proposed school calendar for the 25-26 school year. I will not be able to attend the board meeting due to other board meeting commitments. However, I wanted to share my concerns. As this will be a heated point of conversation on both sides of the table, I feel it needs more time to deliberate and gather feedback from parents, students, and teachers. I can see the benefits and oppositions to staying with our current plan and moving towards a different school calendar year. As a parent, we were notified of this possible action item for the school board meeting tomorrow night on Friday, January 16th. I don't feel it's enough time to make this level of decision based solely on parent feedback of those that can attend the meeting and the feedback that has been gathered from teachers' unions so far. My hope is that this agenda item can be tabled until further notice so that the school district officials can take time to gather feedback from all parties that will be involved in this decision. Thank you for taking the time to read my email. Respectfully, Courtney."
Thank you. Okay, other board members, Josh.
You okay?
Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
So I think for the sake of trying to summarize everything, I think we've got, I'm I'm kind of with Brooke and Teresa here. I think we need more on this. I do want to fall short of trying to do another committee and another survey because we get on average 13% or something. What was the last survey we did? It was like, it was a 4-day, wasn't it? It wasn't like 30% or something, or yeah. So it was not this, but surveys don't seem to be well attended. I think we've got the gist of the community though, the pros and the cons, again, for and against, but I still think it does dictate that we change this a little bit. I think that there's some things we need to. I do also agree that in the future, we should probably look into our antiquated way of doing the calendar, because it seems as though the stakeholders of our community are waiting until we get the information, and we don't get the information till the end. And yeah, that complicates things, but people are more connected nowadays, right? So people have family stuff going on. And when I heard someone say, oh, I already got plans, I kind of laughed and went, who has plans in 12 months? And then I looked at the calendar and went, wait a minute, that's not 12 months, it's 4. So so I was with everyone else when my initial reaction to it was like, oh, what are you talking about? You got plans. So to which my wife informed me I have plans in June, October, November, April, December. So I have plans too as well. So so I think if we ignore that, that'll be a problem. So, but as far as this is concerned, I do agree that we might need to compromise a little bit more on it. And I think that Teresa's right. I think that we have some days in there we might be able to play with. Not that we can really dictate that per se, but just giving the offering. And I will say this, what we asked for is on here. So when folks, there's some folks that are in those you guys over here, part of the unions, like I understand that you guys tried to help us too as well. So we asked for some of these things, thinking we were in best interest of the community. I will say this, when I moved back in 2013, this exact schedule has been discussed with me almost every quarter since I moved back in 2013. Almost every time. And you know where it is? It's usually at county fair. So usually we're sitting around county fair and parents are complaining about how their kids have to go, when it's going to start, how is the Christmas break, all the things. Why can't we move it just like Utah or Idaho or other school districts? So it's been, people have been talking about it for quite a bit. So, but yes, so to summarize all of that, I'm in agreement with Teresa and Brooke. I think we need some changes on here that may be more than just push back a week here and push back a week there. I think it needs to be looked at a little bit more in depth. So, Susan?
Something that I don't think has been brought up, and we talk about, testing exams being done before Christmas break. You have to remember that it's all students, so it's not just high school students. It affects the elementary world differently than obviously the secondary world, but so trying to find that balance that helps out both. A couple of the comments mentioned, little kids, they're excited. It's December, it's Christmas, it's Santa, blah, blah, blah. So they have activities going on. So they're wound up. So to do their testing then isn't always the best. They're better after Christmas because now they're settled. They've had that taken care of. So you have both sides. We also had a comment about testing, but I forgot what testing it was. Matt, maybe you remember, at the end of the year, and that it may interfere with that.
For the English
Yeah.
language.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that also could be an issue. Another one was, and I don't know the answer, so maybe Mr. Anderson, you can help. The professional development day, it used to be that day was after semester ended so that teachers could grade, do whatever they need to. So why is a professional development day like this year? It wasn't at semester time, and in the new calendar, the proposed calendar, it's not related to anything. So is it just professional development, that not having anything to do with planning or grading or anything?
Is there an answer to that question?
Or yeah, maybe there isn't.
I'm
It's
not
okay.
a member of the unions, so I had no part in any of it.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in a positive or negative way.
No.
I wasn't involved in those
I
conversations.
just wondered if you knew.
No.
Because if it's just professional
hear what you're saying.
development,
Yeah.
you know.
It always
that's-
aligned with the end of a semester and
Yeah.
it doesn't anymore. So why
Yeah.
is it there is the
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
And I'm agreeing with what has been said. I think this is too big a change to do tonight. But I don't want to take away days of school because I don't know what that's going to do. They have so much they're trying to get in as it is, and then to take away days from school, that doesn't seem like the best option. But, and I do agree with data, but I don't know how you show data that it's beneficial to start that early or not. Like, I don't know how you would collect that kind of data.
So Matt, can I jump in on that comment from Susan about, taking away days from school? I do appreciate in these calendars how, there was the attempt to remove the Fridays after the Monday holiday. I subbed a lot of those days. And in particular, the attendance was really poor on those days. So I think that's a good move. And, Susan, like you say, yeah, there's a lot of things we're trying to get in on these school days. But I know days like that in this calendar year weren't, many of the teachers, not all, but many of the teachers weren't able to utilize those days as great instructional days because attendance was low. I realize that's very different from a kindergarten class to a high school class. But I think some of those days were already not able to be used. And so I think looking at potentially, playing with a few of those days, I think our staff will do amazing at being able to still get their students through the required curriculum and everything else. And I just know we have great staff and they do amazing things. So I'm just throwing that out there as a note to days being utilized.
Thank you, Teresa. Jeff?
So the biggest reason I see for this change and the most positive thing I see is that having the first semester end with Christmas break. It'd be hard to convince me otherwise that you're going to test better if that information is fresh in your mind, rather than going on break and then coming back to it. In looking at this, also eliminating those Friday comebacks was a big part of that. But I think in hearing all this, I'll go back to where the rest of the districts across the state are. And the majority of them actually start a week earlier than us, not 2. And that's only by 1. But if you add them both up, 13 other districts out of the 17 in the state start earlier than we do. So it's not out of the question for us to want to try and match those districts a little closer. And I would also add our adjoining districts, like, for example, Tooele County in Utah does 1 week earlier too. So we have those offset days there in Wendover where some kids are off and some aren't. In looking at this calendar, I see the thing that keeps popping in my mind is, can we come up with a hybrid? Can we do maybe eliminating the Fridays in the second half of the calendar and not the first? So we get some of them, but we can still get that later start date, say start on the 18th. But you come back the Friday for Labor Day, you come back the Friday for Veterans Day, and then maybe do 2 more days there on the 22nd, 23rd before Christmas, and that gets you your week back that you lost with the early start. Then we still get first semester end. Beyond that, I really don't. I actually do like the calendar. If it weren't for some of those other aspects, I'd be all for it. So I think I'm in with the rest of y'all that I'd like to see some more information or another, like an alternative, because we have one thing to look at here, and for me, it's either yes or no on it. At this point, I would like to hear some more, have some more deliberation, or some more options from the union.
Thanks, Jeff. Josh?
I said 2 more points. One of them is this is, I understand that their teachers want as much time with their students as possible, but I'm just going to go back to what I continue to say is you're always going to use the amount of time that you're allotted, right? We're always going to use how much time. So not to say now, eventually the return on investments start to become, there's a diminishing return. But if you have a ton of time, you're going to know you have a ton of time, right? But if you know you don't have a whole lot of time, what do? We speed up and we try and get what we can in that. And so as much as people don't like to hear that in education, I think that at this point, we've got to start balancing whether we're spending too much, we're allotting too much time and the quality is not there. I'm not trying to say anyone isn't giving quality work. I'm just pushing this out that if we have less time, then we know that we have less time. So I think that there's a couple days in there, just like Teresa said, and I'm taking it farther than she did, but that we can potentially work with in order to maybe get this to work, including being done with at the end of the calendar, just being done at that weekend, Memorial Day, right? Is that the last weekend, that rather than having 3 or 4 days afterwards. So, and then the other is having two children graduate through this district and having one that will be done in June. I can also honestly assess as a parent that probably a good couple weeks at the end of the school year may or may not be quality education as well. And that's not, again, to discount any one person or this district, but let's just be real. Kids aren't paying attention. Teachers are tired. And so maybe having a little less time will get some folks focused as well. And so as much as people don't want to hear the hard truth, that's what it is. So again, I think we can work with this. I think that everyone is trying to do their best with it. But I think that we can potentially have some of this kind of condensed and be more specific. So
Thanks, Josh. Adriana, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say that I also like this calendar. It works for my family, but I understand that a lot of teachers and parents are not happy with it. So almost half. So we need to make it change so we can make it more, that works more for more parents and teachers.
Thank you. Brooke, anything else?
I will say, I think it was in Wells board meeting in November that I brought up that I really didn't like that we saw the calendar in March when the calendar was due in March. And so I really appreciate that it was brought to us in January so that as a board, we can give some feedback and some recommendations. And so I do really appreciate that we were able to see all 5 calendars, that they gave us that information of what was voted on, and that we have some time we don't have to vote on this today. We have the time to go back to the drawing board and find something that works for the community. I would hate to vote on something that doesn't work for the community, and the school calendar start time or start date and end date is going to affect the community. And like I said, in some communities, it will affect, if we were to vote on this, it would affect Wells and it would affect Ruby Valley and it would affect certain communities in a major way compared to how it would affect Elko. And so I just need to make sure as a board member, thinking about all of that and that we're thinking about all of our students, all of our families, and the community as a whole.
do you need a no vote or can we table this with awaiting redraft? How does that go?
We're supposed to vote on the calendar.
We can table it, but go ahead, Teresa.
I was going to say, I'm prepared to make a motion that we reject this particular version of the calendar and ask for another try at a compromise.
I'm going to second that.
And that's okay, good. Because that's what I was going to say is that we can table it, but we can just as easily reject it.
That's what I was asking. That's the only reason I didn't, Teresa beat me to the punch because I asked it.
Thanks, Josh.
I appreciate it. Glad I could set you up.
Shirley, do you have anything further?
I think a compromise would be great because 1, sports will get their 2 weeks of Hell Week between everything, which means we won't have to start sooner, and which means we'll still comply with the NIAA rules. And then also, I think that it's a great idea to keep the finals before Christmas break. 1, just because it's fresh in our minds, it's easier for us. And then also looking at the club aspect of it, everything for a lot of the clubs are due mid to beginning of February. Like pretty much everything for the two clubs that I like president in, I guess, are due the 5th of February. So having finals all the way into January kind of hurts us a little bit because we don't have as much time as we should to get our paperwork turned in or to get our events done. So I think having that before Christmas break would just help the overall like aspect of like the high school at least. I don't know a whole lot about like the middle school or anything like that, but
Was that FCCLA and FBLA or?
so FCCLA, FFA, Key Club, we're all of it's due like mid to beginning of February. Paperwork, money, everything like that. So it's a big aspect of like having finals 2 weeks into January, and it just sets us so far behind on our paperwork and everything like that.
All righty, before we take a vote, I'm going to take a couple minutes. I was anticipating a lot more public comment, so I appreciate that that didn't happen. I had a prepared thing that I was waiting to scribble through and change as we went through public comment, but that didn't quite happen. So I want to echo what's been said a number of times. Thank you very much to our collective bargaining agreement units. I appreciate that there has been a response to what the board has said, and thank you very much for that. I also appreciate all the comments, both in person and submitted through email that have come from the public. Collective bargaining agreements presented the calendars for the board for approval for decades. And while not all members are not all employees are members, this is the first time that I can recall as much division as has happened. And that was kind of talked about earlier as well. However, now is not the time to object to the process. The process has happened. This is where we are. We can only move forward. Other than the days prior to Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas, the Fridays were the least attended days across the district. So we have those stats. We know that that is not a good option. But there's also validity to the concerns regarding attendance during the proposed Memorial Day week after we come back from Memorial Day for the end of the year, as well as focus, particularly for our youngest students during the first semester, the end of the first semester before winter break. I recognize concerns over the short notice of such a change because it is happening very quickly. And to Josh's point, I was like, why is this such a big deal? And then I realized, my wife has planned things into next year, 2026 already, including a potential wedding, which scares the bejesus out of me. So I understand where that goes. Travel plans already made. This does also impact the summer school program. All of these, though, are a one-time impact. It will happen whenever we make a change. And once we make that change, it's that one-time thing. Concerns over summer employment for the older students, particularly those in agriculture and gaming industries, are not one-time, nor is the impact to those students raising market and show animals for the county fair. I don't have an answer for those concerns today, but overall, my biggest concern is the HVAC. How do we make sure that our students and our staff are in a environment that can be conducive to learning and teaching? As I said earlier, I appreciate the collective bargaining units providing the option to address the board's previous concerns with ending the semester occurring after winter break. So now ending it before winter break, week attendance on, and the public requests to eliminate Friday instructional days, and the annual requests from public to avoid graduation conflicting with Mine Expo. I get that that's not all that big of a thing, but it is a big thing to all seniors and to multiple businesses across the community of Elko. I believe that with time, we can address the HVAC situation across the district, and therefore to provide more time to address the issue and to allow a more gradual transition for the upcoming year. I support defeating this tonight so that we can have a compromise. Calendar E, I think, worked best for what this was for a first year. That would put us returning to school on August 18th, ending on May 29th, but it would result for this year being Friday attendance days. And then something similar to what was proposed for calendar C in 2 years. That gives time for folks to make that adjustment. It still moves the calendar up and would be able to go from there. The last thing, and the only thing that I'd written down out of what came up tonight, was polls. I'm wholly against the polls. I appreciate that our community is massively invested into this, but frankly, the 7 of us are elected by you all. We need to make the decision, and sending out a poll is just going to lengthen this. We need to make that decision. I get that it's a big thing. The polling on Facebook has spoken, the polling on
Yes.
on email has spoken, the calls that we've gotten. But also, frankly, our teachers, the collective bargaining unit did what they were asked to do. And if we open it up to everyone, then how long until we start giving everything open to the public? So I appreciate the comments and the attitude towards that, but let us do what you've elected us to do and respect that, if you don't mind, please. So with that, I'm in favor of rejecting the motion. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, thanks. So I, anyone who's still awake for this conversation right now can probably tell where it's heading, but my job is to advise you on certain things. So I'm going to say some things. I don't mean this directly at anybody. I'm not trying to rip on anyone. I'm going to clarify some things that are wrong that have been spoken. And I'm not saying this to benefit the vote one way or another. I just need to advise you properly, okay? So a few things that I want to throw out there. Number one, I want to talk about a method to the madness. I talked to a former school board trustee from many years ago, and that person was present when this was debated in the public eye a while back. I was either in high school or just barely in college when this was last debated. And so at least when action was taken on it by a board. And that person mentioned that, hey, a lot of these, like, we're just recycling the same arguments that happened at that time. And they kept it at, that's how we got to whatever the last Monday before Labor Day, right? So that was, I'm guessing there are some really good reasons, and we're hearing those. There's probably some we haven't even thought of, but this has been debated at this same table before, and that was the solution that came up with. I want to talk about the process real quick. We need to be real careful and cautious about how, so it was my idea, everybody, and I'm not to take credit, but it was my idea to make sure people knew. When I saw the calendar that was voted on by the unions, I said, wow, that's very different. I know some people will be not happy if on a Wednesday morning they wake up and find out, holy cow, that's very different. And we didn't even know it was being talked about. So we haven't always asked for people's opinion when the calendar has come out every 2 years because there haven't been a lot of changes. But we felt it important at this time for you as trustees, because just as you pointed out, Matt, that's your guys' job, is to hear public opinion about how something in our schools might impact them so we can make good decisions. What I don't want to cross that with is the public having a say in how this calendar is created detail-wise, because we have a bargaining agreement that dictates exactly how this, well, not exactly, but it's pretty clear that this is done through negotiations, and negotiations happen between management and the employee base. And so that's dictated not in policy, but in contract, and contract takes effect that way. So we have a procedure by which we do this. And I appreciate Matt saying, we can dislike that procedure, whatever. Like, I can dislike it too if I want, but it is what it is. And so the only way to change that is when we go to negotiations for the next collective bargaining agreement or contract of how that's going to look. Is that something we want to hammer out and that needs to be a priority, or is it not? Or do we just deal with this? And so we got to make sure that we don't, you have a good balance of listening to how it's going to impact people. But if all we do is say, well, I asked everybody and these are the things I want, well, then in effect, it's not really a negotiations. You're telling everyone the way it's going to be. And that's not how a negotiation works. So we got to, not saying anyone is trying to be lord of the manor over this, but we have to be cautious that it is a true negotiation and we find that middle ground. And to that point of middle ground, you're not going to make everybody happy. In fact, it's like as Adriana pointed out, you're going to make half people upset with either one of these. And so you do have to do what's best for the majority. You have to do, and very importantly, what's best for the students. And for, like, I can't worry, and I love Wells. I know the Dolls. I know a lot of people. I can't worry about people's individual businesses when we're making decisions about the curriculum we deliver, the days we do it, all that. That's stuff that everyone's going to worry about those things in their own home and how those things work. And we have to figure out what's best for the school district as a whole, taking into consideration all those elements. But in the end, what is going to benefit the whole? That's my suggestion there. As far as other districts go, it's worth pointing out, and while I'm doing this, you're gonna think, oh, wow, he's for it. No, wait, he's against it. No, he's for it. And I'm not either. Looking at the other districts, it's important to point out that of the three that started this year on the date, essentially, we would be proposing by approving this. Two of those were Clark and Washoe. And I don't think anyone here is trying to argue that we are anything like Clark or Washoe, okay? The other one that was also August 12th was Churchill County, little closer to us, well, sorry, much closer to us than Clark or Washoe. But many of the districts that start on the 19th, which would be a week before what we would be proposing, I guess this other time around it would be the 18th. Those are, so most of them are smaller than us, but very rural-minded districts. And so they've kind of found that sweet spot that maybe some of you are suggesting if we find some sort of a compromise. So to that point, whether it's Douglas or, well, maybe not Douglas so much, but Esmeralda, Eureka, Humboldt, Mineral, Story, those are all much smaller districts and maybe reflects some of our population a little more. As far as the suddenness of the decision, y'all, it's the same time every year. Like if it's sudden today, it's going to be sudden in January of next year. It's going to be sudden in January of 27. Like any change is always going to be around this time of year unless we make it a habit to make the calendar for the next year in August of the preceding year. Like I suppose that could be something that's negotiated into policy as well, but that's not what it is right now. What it does say in the agreement is that the decision has to be made and approved by April 1st. And so we're well ahead of that on schedule, and thank you, Brooke, for pointing out the diligence of the unions and getting that done well ahead of time. I think it's showing to be very beneficial that we did do it so far ahead of time. But as of now, it's April 1st, so we can have it by April 30th because the state has to have it by May 1st. Otherwise, I don't know otherwise. I don't think we've gone past May 1st. Like, that's not going to happen. We're going to have the calendar figured out. Yeah. No school. It's a year off. Then a couple other just misconceptions. Like, there's been a lot of talk about energy costs. It's not even a topic worth discussing, everyone. It's a very minimal financial impact. It would cost more, but I don't know, it's really, we've kind of looked at the numbers, and it's a couple hundred per school for this school, or a smaller school is going to be much less than that. So it really doesn't amount to much. I know in everybody's real day lives, if someone's like, it's going to be $40,000 more, I'm just throwing a number out there, someone will be like, oh my gosh, 40,000, that's a lot. When it comes to the types of energy bills we pay as a school district, not that we don't want to save money everywhere we can, but it's not a reason to say no to something because it could be an extra $10 a day at the Ruby Valley Rural School, right? Like it's not as big of an impact. And we've looked into that a little bit very recently. The last thing is a note on NIAA. We can't move anything up with NIAA. NIAA is what it is. I'm looking at the football one, for example, from this year. July 29th, it was predetermined that all coaches must be registered and cleared in final forms. July 29th, optional football heat acclimatization days. They can't do anything with their kids until July 29th. So it doesn't matter if school starts on August 25th. It doesn't matter if it starts on August 7th. It doesn't matter if it starts on August 11th. Pick a day in August. Football's not doing anything until July 29th, when the NIAA dictates they're allowed to do something. And if they are, they're not supposed to be. And so we'll have to keep an eye on that no matter what we do with the calendar.
And does that would include marching band and stuff too then, right?
No,
No?
this is specifically NIAA governing sports. Marching band, I know that was one that several of our wonderful members of the public mentioned in their comments. Marching band, I actually very conveniently had a meeting today with the Elko band director already, and I made sure to ask him that question. And he indicated in all likelihood, they would have to move their things ahead, or ahead 2 weeks. Well, whatever we do, if we move forward a week, they're gonna have to go a week because they have camps for this many days prior to the start of school. So that is likely what would happen with band. And that's just speaking about Elko High. We can guess the same for other places, but that's just a conversation with Elko High. And I think that was all of the comments I wrote down. Sorry if I missed some that some people talked on. And I just want to reiterate, I am neither for nor against. I am simply here trying to give you advice and recommendations and guidance.
Great. Thank you very much. Additional comments? All right, so let's start here with Susan and then we'll go, okay, actually, Shirley, we'll go start with you and then work your way back. So then Jeff, you're on deck, Susan in the home.
I just got, looking at the schedule, if we still ended that week of May, that would cut out a lot for seniors in all the districts because, well, not the district, but like in all like the counties, all the schools, because seniors take their finals 2 days early. So they take them on the Monday and Tuesday at 90% of the schools because they do all the traditions like going to all the pre-Ks, going to everything like that.
Yep.
While if we end school on the 28th, we have a holiday on that Monday. So we wouldn't be able to do all of those traditions, or we would have to rush them. And then either graduation would be pushed back or we would just overall. So like, I don't know if you guys have an answer to whether or not how that would get corrected or.
I would imagine just from having scheduled these types of things before, like when you consider that time is being added on the front end, everything's just going to get, like almost everything is just going to get shoved back. So where you would have normally done that on the Monday or Tuesday of the last week of school, you probably do it on the Wednesday, Thursday of the preceding week of school, or the last week of school, if that were approved. I mean, if we think there's an uproar about taking away senior traditions would be a whole nother bag of worms. So yeah, we definitely don't want to, I don't think any of those things would get lost. Those are all vital and essential to the culture of a campus. And I'm confident that a student leadership organization and campus administration would make sure to find a way to make those still happen.
Shirley, anything else? All right, thanks, Jeff.
I just wanted to speak to this as to be in a negotiation because we really haven't had an opportunity to provide any input for that negotiation until today. So while I respect you saying that that's a negotiation between management and the unions, I feel like we should have had more input. And I believe that this is what we're doing by what I feel like we're probably going to end up doing here is saying, hey, we would like to have a say in this too. So I just want to point that out, that we haven't had any input until now.
Right. I don't disagree with you. Yeah, that is the natural, what I'm getting at is that's the natural course of management. Usually not of management, of negotiations. Usually in the majority of other negotiations we do, we have a closed session right after.
Right.
It's never, my point is it's never done this way.
Yeah.
It would be you all talk to us, we talk to them. So some of those things were already communicated as far as like what, and the unions, as I think Matt said, admirably included many of those things that were dictated back in Wells 4 months ago, 3 months ago. And so we can just view this as a natural phase of the negotiation. I will say when we're negotiating contracts, there are many elements of the contract that we don't ever talk about because nobody has anything to say about. And so in years when nothing's changed, which none of you would have experienced, because I guess some of you very early on, we had a calendar approval, right? But nothing changed there, right? So there hasn't ever been a need for a back and forth because it's always just been, we're doing what we're doing and everyone good with it? Yeah, you're good with it? Okay, let's keep it and vote. So yeah, it's very different this time around.
I just say, well, and point being, I want to apologize to the unions, anybody who's here who may think that we're not taking what you've said into account. But again, I just want to point out that we haven't had the opportunity to provide our input there yet either. So respectfully, that's what I'm doing today.
Thanks, Jeff. Susan?
The only thing I have to say, I guess, is that back to the drawing board, and I don't like it starting so early based on a lot of things that have already been said. Just a reminder that it's not just Elko High School or Wells or whatever. We have every school to consider, and it's not just high school. There's elementary, kindergarten, there's all grade levels as well.
Hey, Matt, I did leave one other element out that I know people wonder about, and I just want to clarify. And Courtney kind of alluded to it earlier regarding the number of days and minutes, et cetera. The way when we move, so when it's a 5-day calendar, it has to be 180 days of school, and there is also a required number of minutes that have to be attended. When we approved an alternate calendar, we can do however many days we want, but there is a minimum number of minutes that have to be attended. So what we have right now is an excess in minutes, and it varies from school to school because depending on the length of lunch and depending on passing periods, and schools vary a little bit in how long their school day is. But where we sit right now with our current calendar is every school has a surplus of roughly 8 to 10 days to work with, depending on snow, depending on early outs, depending on power outages, depending on other natural disasters, and everything I have mentioned in my comments just now have all happened at schools already this year. We've already had things occur where minutes have, people just think, oh, it's just snow days. It's not just snow days. It's anytime you peel minutes back from whatever we told this state we're going to do, those get deducted, they get deducted. Our wonderful Josh Farmer has to submit a report anytime anything happens to let them know we are no longer doing that number of minutes. This this group of schools all requested a 2-hour early out. So that's minus 120 minutes for all those schools. And that tallies up throughout the year as you do that. And so it's not just snow days. We want to have that cushion. It's very important to have that. And so you don't want to be right there at the edge where we're just toying with, being right on the edge of that line. We want to have that surplus. Furthermore, I think it's important to have our kids in school and learn. And I think we've all seen we have some work to do, and we have need for our students to be in class. And so I don't highly recommend just kicking a bunch of days out, because if we were let's just say if hypothetically we kicked out those 3 after Memorial Day, well, now you're sitting at somewhere from 5 to 7 per school, and we don't have to go back more than 2 school years where almost every school in our district had just about 5 days of snow days, never mind 2-hour early outs for professional development, never mind other issues that happen. So I've heard some people say, wow, that's so many more minutes than we need. Not always. It's important to have that. You want to be, just like with money, you want to be wise and having a surplus there for rainy day, bad situation, et cetera. We need to have that surplus, in my opinion, in hand for our calendar days. So that's where we sit from a calendar standpoint, just so everyone's aware, from minutes and days, et cetera.
Thank you. Josh?
Like to call the question.
Okay. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to reject the calendar presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed to the rejection? All right, chair votes aye as well. Motion passes to reject. And again, with our respect to our collective bargaining units, thank you very much for this. We look forward to the next go round, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? So right now, all of the calendars that were voted on were 150 days, and that was based on what is in contract with the teachers though, right? So if we take days off of the calendar, that also has to change in contract, right?
If we were to have a calendar with fewer than 150 school days, we would also have to, Cody's just processing the nightmare, and so was Cassie, of what would have to, but we would essentially have to recalculate and renegotiate every single contract of every person other than your year-round employees. So like
Which is-
95% of our district or something like that.
Which is why I just want to say that I'm with Matt. I think calendar E is the best option, going on Fridays after Monday holidays, because it only starts us 1 week early. It gets us out at the semester, or it ends the semester before Christmas. We still have our nice long Christmas breaks that people love. We still have a nice long spring break that people love, and we're still getting out at the end of May. The only thing I could see that you could change on that calendar is that you have the 2 weeks for Christmas, you have the week for spring break, but we're also adding on an early out day before those even start, which I don't think is necessary. And so if we're worried at all about saving those hours, that's a place I feel like we could have a full day and save those hours instead of letting them out early, 2 hours early on those days. But that would be my recommendation. And like I said, yesterday, my phone went dead 3 times from the phone calls that I was receiving from people. And through talking about different calendar options with people, pretty much, I know a lot of people hate going on the Fridays after a Monday holiday. I know they hate it. But when I brought up to them, well, would you rather go on the Friday after a Monday holiday or add a week of school on? They were all like, Fridays aren't so bad.
Thank you, Brooke. 2.02 is selection of representative to the Elko County Commission Capital Improvement Panel. This is for possible action. This is a statutorily required appointment for Assembly Bill 519 or AB 519. Mr. Josh.
I'll just put my name out there. I've been on it. It's a pretty quiet appointment. The project in and of itself is slowly developing. So there's not a whole lot. They do have a meeting coming up, I believe on next Tuesday, if I remember right. Other than that,
Any additional nominations? All righty then, I'm just going to say by acclamation, those that are in favor of Josh being reappointed, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate that. And for the board's information, we will add that appointment, providing that AB 519 survives intact as written through the upcoming legislative session. We'll add that appointment to our standard reorganization meeting at the beginning of January for next year. And we'll go to 2.03, receipt review of the 2024 NASB School Board Governance Team of the Year donation and any possible action related thereto. In recognition of the 2024 School Board Governance Team of the Year from Nevada Association of School Boards, they awarded us $500. We need to, well, the suggestion is that we find a way to do something with that $500, and a donation would work well, I think. So, discussion.
We kind of talked about at the conference, I think it was the Hope Squad, of donating it to the Hope Squad. Am I right? Is that what we?
I don't remember.
I think it was the Hope, because we felt like that benefited every student versus like a smaller group somewhere at one school or something. We felt like Hope. Is that right, Brooke? Okay. That's one of the things. I don't remember what the rest, I was just thinking it was Hope Squad. So if you have something different.
I think we talked about S.T.A.R.S too.
But that doesn't benefit the kids.
Yeah.
We did.
Hope Squad
then we
is,
decided we
how many
wanted
sites
to
is Hope?
keep-
Is Hope Squad at all sites now?
I thought it was secondary.
All secondary sites, okay.
But it trickles down to don't they work sometimes with maybe they don't. Oh, okay. That was just
Kinda
one
looking at like
suggestion.
the
It's
Hope
not.
Squad thing. They do work a lot with like the middle school and younger grades because we do Hope Weeks. We do everything like that where we are bringing the younger kids into it, and high schoolers are encouraged to bring their younger siblings to it.
Thank you.
How does that work if we donate to Hope Squad then? Like, do we know
I don't
logistics
know.
of it? Okay.
We were just talking about different groups.
Yeah, that could be a little more, I mean, I like the idea because I mean, even though it would be spread very thin across a lot of kids, that would at least go towards a program. Right now, Hope Squad's totally funded, but I think in the future, at some point, we're gonna have to renew for curriculum or something along those lines. There are some associated costs with the program generally, but the majority of what happens at a site level. And so I mean,
Don't they have a camp? Yeah.
oh yeah, there you go.
And
It
they
it
were
could go to like
looking
a
for
district
things-
event, that sort of
yeah.
thing, yeah. Yeah, so that's
Because
an idea.
Flagview has Hope Squad too.
Yes, it was all sixth grade and above, so yeah, Flagview did
Yeah,
end up with
so-
it as well.
And if, like you said, it kind of trickles down, so to me, it seems like something that might,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are there
But
any
I'm
other,
open to other suggestions.
any other suggestions?
I just have one. If it makes any difference where we want to go, Ignite Life Chiropractic will match this to whatever group you guys want to go to.
Thank you very much to the Ignite Life Chiropractic team.
You know what? I'll go ahead and match it too from
Oh, all right.
It's
Sounds
getting hot
good.
in here.
wherever we decide.
All right, well, that seems like a fair amount of money, so.
So there was a suggestion for it to go to a Hope Squad district event. I'm happy to entertain a motion as such. Actually, before we do that, Teresa, do you have any insight, anything to input?
I do like the idea of Hope Squad because it is a district-wide program. It's also one that I was, really passionate about, just with the mental health of our students. So I think that's a good idea. One other idea I had, is, we're required by law to attend trainings. And if we, put that in the board, in for the board to do their training, that would also offset some costs there. But I do think if we could do a district-wide donation with those matching funds to the Hope Squad for a district event, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to do exactly that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much to the generosity of our community sponsors and to the Nevada Association of School Boards. 2.04 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed new policy JDFG, student discipline, procedure for administering discipline and appeals. This is for possible action. This has come before the board a number of times. There are a number of documents on public content. The document titled Policy JDFG McCarty edits Redline 2 is the most recent iteration that takes the proposed changes that have been done over the past number of meetings and in a highlighted in yellow area added the language that was recommended at the last meeting, specifically under subsection 2 or I guess section 2, adding language that's now reads on the same day that a significant suspension or expulsion is upheld under policy JDFD 10 or a significant suspension not covered under JDFD is issued, the superintendent's designee shall, etc. Section 4 now would read a pupil, or if the pupil is under 18 years of age, the parent or legal guardian of the pupil whose significant suspension, expulsion, or permanent expulsion was upheld under policy JDFD 10 or whose significant suspension is not covered under JDFD may file an appeal, etc. So those are the changes there. And before we go too much further, I did have, I think actually 2 different public comments reach out that specifically said, please don't exempt the younger students. They need discipline as well. We don't have the option of that. That is under Nevada revised statute that those under certain circumstances, students under 11 cannot be held to this policy under certain circumstances or the other policy. So just wanted to be very clear on that this is not us saying, you're 11, you don't know any better. Forget it.
Yeah, so I didn't really, you showed me those, or you forwarded those to me, and I appreciate you doing that. And at first I was confused by them, but then when I looked at the wording, I wondered if maybe this is where the confusion came from, is because that first paragraph, the red line from last time says this policy may not apply to students. it's important to note that that is not like when you tell your child they may not have a second helping of ice cream. This is saying it may not apply. It could also apply depending on the scenario, severity of the infraction, that's the point I want to make is someone might read that and think this does not apply to kids age 11 and under or with disabilities. And it could potentially, depending on the nature of the infraction, et cetera, as I said before. So it doesn't mean that we won't. It just means it may not. May, pause, not.
Susan?
Just from my notes from last time and then again from this time, so we don't need a different policy for those under the age of 11. I can't remember what was said at the last meeting. I have a note
Yeah,
about.
what was said was I was going to look into it more, and I will. I haven't.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that we would need another policy because the NRS is pretty clear on that aspect of it, so.
And if there is a significant enough event, then this may apply. So I don't know that we need another policy.
Right. Yes, because if somebody's, let's say, 8 years old and brings something.
Yep, you don't have to say it.
Then you'll have to do, then this would still go into effect. It wouldn't matter, right? Okay.
It's going to be very nuanced. Depending, like there's going to be there's a flow chart somewhere that we would have to follow that says, do they have a disability? Is this type, does it manifest itself in this way? If so, then we would have to really very carefully follow through that. And it wouldn't just be done willy-nilly in our offices. It would be done with lawyers. It would be done with NDE guidance, et cetera, because that would be a very specific scenario that you don't see very often.
Thank you. How would the board like to move forward?
I move, here if I can get my computer to work. I move to approve the proposed new policy JDFG student discipline procedure for administering discipline appeals for possible appeals.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you. And for clarification, that's utilizing McCarty edits red line 2?
Yes.
And McCarty
sorry.
edits clean 2? Okay.
Yes, McCarty edits red line 2.
Perfect. Further discussion from the board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Teresa, sorry for continuing to cut you off. I'll try to be a little bit more slow to allow technology to catch up with us.
You're great.
2.05 is receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy DHF, travel and other employee reimbursements. This is for possible action, as this is the second time that we have seen this one. There are 2 red lines.
So last meeting, we had a number of items of feedback. Some of those were fully implemented into this, and others were considered but not fully implemented. So what you'll see here that is different from last time is all of the additional items in red. So the blue is from last go around, and the ones that are red now are the new addition. So some clarification under 5A to supervisors. 5B makes sure to add in the part about how board travel will be authorized since you don't have a supervisor. So you will do that by common consent. And then it goes down a little bit into specific detail about, let's see, what would it be? 5EV talks about finding the least expensive travel method available and has some clarifying language there. And then down at the very bottom in number 6, it clarifies a little bit about grant travel and how that process goes and getting approval. But I talked to Jeff earlier about this. Jeff spent a fair bit of time last time talking about maybe the organization of it. And as I told him, I'll tell you, we honestly looked at various ways to reorganize it, but just in the end, we just decided not to reorganize it. And so, or reformat it in any way. So That is what you see here is our recommendation as of now.
Thank you. Board discussion.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and speak to that in that I still have some significant issues with the policy. What I would like to ask of you, the board, is that we continue this to the next meeting so that I can have some opportunity to have some more input with this and provide the solutions. I'd rather not go through the notes that I have here when I think that it's better done in a different setting and then get you the end document rather than have you follow along and me show you what's crossed out and what's not. So again, I had some suggestions last meeting, wasn't able to see those until Wednesday, and obviously this calendar issue is kind of taking precedent over that. I don't see a time issue with that, so that's what I would be asking, is if we could look at this at the next meeting, please.
And so to clarify and to understand better, at the next meeting, you would have something that you would present as an alternative?
That's correct.
And you draw
Well,
out
and
what
I'd like to work with Superintendent Anderson to go through the notes that I've made and explain some of we spoke of some of them today. And one of them I'll just say is that on item 5E, we didn't even agree which form it was talking about, whether it's the reimbursement form or whether it's the travel form. There's some other things it doesn't address with, for example, the travel form for permission isn't a form, it's online. And so I think we need to specify a little, anyway, like I said, there's some significant edits that I'd like to see, and where I've only had since Wednesday to look at the red line, I was expecting something a little different. So I'd like the opportunity to take a little more active role in taking that and explaining what issues I have with that there, and then we get that final document next meeting.
Thank you. Cassie?
I just wanted to make a comment. This procedure, we're not referring to direct forms. This is all information. Our department has to deal with people on a daily basis answering these questions, as well as the grants department, and then any new teachers or staff members that are traveling. So this has been run by various departments. They've looked at this. We've taken in their considerations and their request. So I just wanted to make that clear that the departments that are actually approving the travel feel like this is the best form and policy.
Next question.
Please go ahead.
I mean, not to overstep, Jeff, but I just wanted to ask direct supervisor. I know you had said that was added in there. I'm drawing a blank. Did we talk about this, Mr. Anderson? So sorry.
Sorry, so the direct supervisor
Just a
part?
direct super, yeah, just clarification on that. I just want to make sure I know I'm reading. So like basically it's teacher supervisor, or is it direct super? What would a direct supervisor then be? I don't know the hierarchy.
For whom?
I don't know, whoever's approving, like, so let's say I'm assuming this applies at like a site level.
This would apply
across
every
Okay.
level. So if
let's just give an example.
Paul wanted to do
For sure.
travel, then I'm his direct
I mean,
supervisor.
I see the directors here, right? So I kind of assume that there would be you, but
Yeah.
I'm not in a site generally. So
yeah,
like
so-
a teacher,
so-
let's say a teacher, I don't know.
That would be the principal at the campus.
Okay, so that would be a direct. It wouldn't be like there's not a necessary, because again, I don't know the structure of it. There's
Yeah.
no org
So
structure.
for most of the staff in our district, that direct supervisor is the principal.
That's what I was looking for. Okay. So then if it's something like paraprofessional or something like that, they have a direct supervisor then there, or is that still the principal? Okay, cool. People don't know what they don't know. Yep. So thank you.
Could I ask a question about car rentals must be approved in advance by the superintendent or the CFO? Like why? Why not direct supervisor?
A lot of times we look at the budget closely, we can change it to direct supervisor, but we just want to ensure that those are actually approved and people aren't getting a car rental because it's an unnecessary expense. If it's less expensive, because we also do, if someone's staying at a conference and they decide to go eat at a restaurant 10 miles outside of town, we're not going to cover that expense. So we don't need to be paying for a car rental for that as well.
Right. I was just curious of why it said superintendent instead of immediate supervisor. So that was.
Susan, can I just want to throw, personal experience. I can tell you that my time in any governmental agency, car rental seems to be something like they have a big issue with. No offense, but like they really do. When I was in the military, the closest airport was literally 3 hours and they wouldn't approve you to go in if your supervisor didn't pre-approve it before you came in, but you took you had to take a taxi those 3 hours as opposed to rent a car, even though it would cost 3 times the amount. It was the only thing so I would just, 2 cents worth, government has an issue with rental cars. And I'm sure that this is, due cause, but I just wanted to add some background on that too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Okay. Teresa, I'm going to borrow or Mr. Krinka, I'm going to borrow your parliamentarian expertise. We had discussed this previously on tabling an item. Theoretically, it could be tabled forever and someone would need to bring it back, which would mean that it would probably be a little awkward in a public meeting because we have to agendize bringing it back. So I believe postponement could work, or we could simply choose not to vote on it and just bring it back up on the next agenda. Does anybody have any advice and or says on that?
If you want proper parliamentary procedure, you could say I move to postpone this until and include the date.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I was thinking, and I appreciate the confirmation and your expertise. So does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make that motion that we postpone this until the next scheduled meeting.
Okay, regularly scheduled meeting, I'm assuming?
February 4th.
February 4th.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. On favor, discussion on the motion. On favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, I just told you I'd let you have time, Teresa, and then I didn't let you have time, so thank you. Vote aye as well. This motion passes and that agenda item is postponed until the February 4th meeting. Moving on now to the consent agenda 3.01.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. Chair votes aye. Oh, sorry, any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Superintendent Matters 4.01, Mr. Anderson.
Hello. Reports, something from last week, was 2 years ago. I had a flight mishap and was not able to make the governor's State of the State address. This year I was not on a plane on the same day, so I was able to make the governor's State of the State address. It was interesting. I've never been to an event such as that. There were some things I was happy to hear about education, and there were other things I was less enthusiastic to hear that was said about education. What a positive to report on is that the governor indicated he intends to sustain the teacher raises that were put in the last biennium. And so that's good to know that he's not going to retract the $2 billion that was put in 2 years ago. Our district would certainly have a problem absorbing all of that. And so so that's good. And we'll be glad to see what else is proposed. From what I've heard, there is plenty of variation on what people, different bills and agendas that people have regarding education across the state, both as it pertains to public as well as public school districts, county school districts, as well as charter schools and the Charter School Authority. And they're going to get some more support this time too, as it regards to transportation and teacher raises as well. So good for the charters. And so I will, with that session starting pretty soon, we'll get our regular updates, and the superintendents will be part of being familiarized with those bills and how they will impact education. And I'll come back to you and let you know how things are going there to keep you. And I'm also looking forward to Jeff working with you on the on the legislative side of things
Yeah.
from NASB, and I think you and I will be, we talk a fair bit already, in between meetings, but we'll get
Let's
to-
rock it this
we'll-
year. I
we'll-
think
we're gonna be hanging out a lot.
Yeah.
I may have to make frequent stops, to Fratelli's on my way
Lot to
through,
talk
on
about.
my way through to class every other weekend. Yeah, it was a good event. And we'll see what the session holds for education. And then I did want to, I wanted to thank the board for whether you knowingly did it or not, but your decision to provide funds to our Hope Squad efforts across the district, firmly supported pillar number 4 that's over there on that wall of student staff wellness. Like to remind people that one of the 4 things that we decided was most important was that our individual health and our collective wellness are essential to our success. And a lot of the emails that you all read talked about kids' mental well-being, their stress levels, et cetera. And so I appreciate you considering those things. We can't spend all day, every day solely focusing on everyone's individual wellness. But I like that we recognize that collective wellness is important, and the Hope Squad does a lot of good things. I can't remember the last day I walked on a secondary campus without seeing either a Hope Squad sweatshirt or shirt, or a shirt that says, your life matters, or one that says, smile, someone loves you. Like there's these wonderful, sentiments and feelings that are going around our campuses. And so I appreciate you dedicating not only the initial donation, but thanks to Fratelli Pizza and Ignite Life Chiropractic for matching that. That's really great. I don't think Hope Squad even knew they were on the table for $500 tonight, never mind $1,500. So that's a win for a lot of people. So thank you for supporting that. And yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Oh, I do want to say as well, thank you to all the community members who participated in sharing your voices. I didn't want to make it sound like I was anti having that participation be part of the process. Again, like I said, I desperately wanted it. And I think I've been doing some reading lately. I know you didn't come here for a book report from CJ, but I've had a couple of books that I've been reading lately. And in both of them, it talks about the importance of it doesn't always call it local control, but that's what it's talking about. And that's the importance of people. Essentially what it's saying is the investment. It's not so much about having control, because control is an illusion. What it is about is being invested in what's going on in your schools and in your kids' education. And so whenever we have people invested, and they're there for a good reason and to lend a voice to the process, I appreciate it. I don't have to agree with everything that was in every one of those emails. I don't agree with everything I said a year ago. I don't agree with everything my wife says to me every day. Like we disagree about stuff, and that's totally cool. She definitely doesn't agree with everything I say. Agreement is not the goal. I don't think at least it shouldn't be. It's a fool's errand, because anything can change anything in an instant. What is important is that we are invested and we come together for a common purpose, and that is the best situation for our students and to help them get the most out of their education. So I appreciate everyone who's engaged in the process, and sounds like we're not done with it yet. So thank you, and thank you all for not only your feedback and sharing all that with me all week, but also your input on these policies we've been working on. It's good to work with you.
Thank you, sir. Comments or questions for Mr. Anderson? Alrighty, we'll move into items from the board members. 5.01, I'll start to my right. Miss Adriana.
Save the date. We have a couple weeks ago, I went to a workshop in Reno. That was really good. Learned a lot. And let me look at it. There's going to be one that I'm interested in. It's going to be similar to the one we have here. Is it a month? I don't remember when, but when NASB came here and we had the big workshop in September. So we're gonna have similar to that. It's gonna be in Virginia City and it's gonna be in May 16. So just if you want to attend, save the date.
Thank you for that NASB meeting and on May 16th. Appreciate it. Anything else?
That's it.
Ms. Brooke. All righty, Mr. Josh.
I'm good. Thank you.
Perfect. Miss Susan.
Nothing at this time.
All right. Mr. Jeff.
A couple things, sure. Wanted to remind everybody that the National School Board Association Conference in Atlanta is coming up April 4th through 6th. I will be attending that, and I invite anybody else that can to please come. It was great last year in New Orleans, and we got a lot of information out of it. I want to thank everybody that showed up, that has worked on the calendar, that has made comments, that has come here in attendance. I wanted to recognize County Commissioner Brian Gale here coming and sticking it out. It's a long meeting to come and catch, but we're happy to have you here. And I also want to thank our student board member. I think you provided some real valuable input for us tonight. It was good to hear your perspective on a lot of things. And I want to thank the board just for the work that all you're doing, that everybody seems to be, has the right questions. We're all heading in the right direction. I love, even though we couldn't come to an agreement tonight, it just feels like we're making progress in the right direction. And I'd like to see it. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff. Teresa.
Thank you. I do have a couple things. I also attended the NASB training. It was fantastic. We talked a lot with Tom Clark Solutions, who will be working with the legislature on the behalf of NASB and all school boards, in the state. I would like to point out that NASB has set up a day with the legislature on March 5th. And Rick Harris, who is our executive director, would like a commitment from anyone who will be attending that by the end of this week, next week at the latest, because they will make arrangements for every board member that attends to not only meet with legislators around the state, but they will make an appointment for you to meet with your local legislator. There will be a specific time set aside for each individual board member to meet with those legislators. So they need a little time to make sure that gets on the calendar. And also just letting you know, Jeff, as our legislative representative, will be working with Dr. Diane Nicolette, who is the NASB legislative chair, and Tom Clark Solutions to work through this legislative session, which is coming up on us quick.
Thank you, Teresa. Ms. Shirley, anything further to add?
I don't know. I was just told to tell you guys about pretty much anything. So I'll talk a little bit about some good stuff at Elko High School, and then I'll talk about some stuff that I guess isn't the best that the students have concerns about. Firstly, they really loved Winter Formal Week. They really loved the theme. They really loved everything with that. So our student council did great. So I thank them for that. So did our wonderful principals and everything. Something else that I think is going really well is keeping down some of the substances and weapons at our school. I feel like that's doing a lot better compared to my freshman and sophomore year compared to now. I feel like that's doing a lot better. And then something that I feel like my school could improve on is kind of like our attendance policy, because don't get me wrong, we have a pretty good one with 3 tardies a week. You get detention, that's understandable. But a lot of kids kind of find it stupid that if they miss one unexcused absence day, that they end up with detention, which is understandable, because there's been a few kids that miss one unexcused absence all semester, and they end up in detention for 3 or 4 days for that one absence, which I understand, but I understand the school has to punish for it, but at the same time, I feel like that there has to be some leniency for some kids that miss just 1 or 2 days a semester. That's bad, I guess. But I do understand that we're trying to get the chronic absenteeism down and everything like that. So, yeah.
Can I add one comment?
Thank you. Please.
So for you to share with your friends, Shirley, there is one difference between an unexcused absence and an excused absence, and that is a note or a phone call from a parent. That's all it takes to make something. Essentially, what they're trying to do is say, stop skipping. Because if you can't get a note from a parent or a phone call from a parent, then we have no way of verifying you were allowed to be somewhere else. And so essentially it's not about, this is my interpretation anyway, I'm not the principal of Elko High. My interpretation of that is just show us you weren't skipping, because that's what the consequence isn't for having an unexcused absence. It's for theoretically skipping school. And so that's all it takes is for parents, for kids, that's all it takes is a note. Your parent doesn't even have to be telling the truth. I hate to say that out loud, but like your parent could lie and say, yep, we were at the doctor. We have no way of verifying that. And it's marked excuse because we talked to the parent. So just turn in a note. It's a pretty simple fix to that.
I have a question. So sorry. Pardon me, Mr. President. When you brought that up, it clicked some neurons off. So that, I have a question for Mr. Anderson. So then, is that a local site policy when we have things like tardies or even detentions, or is that specific to the whole district as far as how that's
So on our district, and again, this is all spur of the moment, so I could say I'll have to get back to you on that, but I feel pretty good about what's going on here. What's going on is we have a discipline matrix that goes along with our restorative behavior plan, and that discipline matrix will say something like on the row for the category skipping, you can apply any of the following. For first infraction, you can do 1 to 3 days of detention / ISS, right? Depending on the nature of the skipping or whatever. For tardies, it'll say the same thing. So what they're doing at the school is they're taking liberty to, because it's not a defined one every time. Sometimes it's defined what you do, but other times there's like a range of things to give someone flexibility. So they are working within the bounds of what the matrix allows them to do and applying that to their campus. So that is what the example she gave of getting a detention or it was a detention, you said, right?
Yes.
Getting a detention for a first situation of skipping sounds to me like the lowest possible thing they could be doing to someone for skipping. Whereas someone else might say, hey, we found out you're skipping, you're doing a day of ISS. And it's going to vary from campus to campus how they implement that, and sometimes across situations, just depending on.
For sure.
Not all skips are created equal.
Yeah. So then kind of to the second part of that, so then the tardies themselves, so tardies, is that still, that's a site, basically a site procedure based on the matrix in of itself? So would that be something that the administration comes together as a whole, like say principal, vice principal, all the things? So whatever their procedure is based on that site in and of itself. So say they have a procedure where someone's tardy, they have to go all the way to whatever office and they go all the way back to.
Yes.
Okay. So that would be based on, and so then how would that, so if someone has an issue with that, how does any of the, I mean, issue in like, let's say they have a valid complaint, so then they need to go through the actual site and bring it all the way up?
Yep.
And then
the site principal about that procedure. And just to give a little more context, sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're good.
I know when I was the principal in Wells, we actually had a discipline committee that was made up of teachers, counselor, whoever else, I don't remember everyone that was on the committee. And we all kind of thought about, hey, what do we think is fair and what maybe is a little more pervasive of a problem at our campus, right? Because maybe tardies are a problem at your campus, where maybe they're not as big a deal somewhere else, but shoot, at this campus, it's this other thing. And so what do we want to give a little more emphasis to and make sure we're buckling down on? And so it could vary, but yeah, that's 100, unless that site is going out of bounds of what the matrix allows them to do, then there would be no reason to ever make it to even Paul. Like somebody could complain to him about it.
Yeah.
Let's say it was a high school, but Paul would review the plan and say they're acting within the bounds of what's allowed. So I'm sorry, but that's the site decision.
So then would that be, so what if so do the teachers have input into that at all as well?
I don't want to speak for every campus at Wells.
I mean, I know you're saying you have.
There was a representative of teachers that were in there that would.
But that's only specific to Wells. That's not specific across sites. It's just an option for them to.
Yep. They don't have to have a discipline committee, but.
So then if that's a site that doesn't, again, I'm just trying to learn, how this works. If that site doesn't have a discipline committee, how would a teacher put input otherwise? Is it just, they would just tell their direct supervisor and then we just assume that that's going to make some sort of change, or?
I would encourage them to engage in a scholarly and collegial conversation with their principal. Yeah. Yeah.
I respectfully,
They don't have to be, like, there's nothing scary about talking to your principal about something.
yeah. And if,
Yeah, that's the way, I mean, if they felt like, I mean, if they had some, we're really getting down into some weeds here. I guess if
they're
they're
not
scared for
unheard of
some
weeds,
reason, they should
so I
reach out.
mean, you know, if I'm bringing it up, that I probably might have some other things there too as well. So I'm just trying to be nice because we're in a public hearing. So I'm just asking, like, let's say that's not working out.
Yeah. Feel free to share with me what's going on, and I can talk to you more about it later.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All righty. Then I'm going to throw out a couple things. Commissioner Gale had said, don't say anything, but thanks again. I'm going to echo what Jeff said. Thanks for being here. I also want to recognize that Elko City Council member Chip Stone is here. So appreciate both of you being here, whether that's because you just were bored on a Tuesday night or perhaps more importantly, the importance of what the calendar does and the impact to our community across the county. Appreciate both of you being here. So thank you very much for that. To the point of Teresa and Jeff and CJ on the legislative side of things, Government Affairs Committee is putting together a BDR or a bill draft request list that then is used to track bills throughout the session. And it would have been completed today because I am the one that puts that together had it not been for all of the 4 dozen emails or so that we received. And so for the board particular, if there's anything that you guys would like, I'll probably just share it with you guys anyways, and then you can look through it. If you have any questions, let me know. But particularly, Jeff, I want to make sure that you're aware of it so that you can do a quick search for anything that's education related and hopefully have a little bit easier tracking on that. Yeah. Well, and then if you were reelected, you get more. And if you're the, there's right now, as of this afternoon, I want to say there were 980 some odd bill draft requests. So for the board's purposes, for Dr. Alsbury, I did reach out with him and we had a brief meeting. We need to get a contract developed because the proposal that was presented is not a formal contract. So I've sent that over to central offices this morning or earlier today. I don't even know if it was this morning, but we hopefully will get that going. And then the first point of order of item that he wants to work on is in regards to the superintendent's evaluation, only because of the timing in the calendar year. So I've already worked out, I've already reached out to CJ on that, and CJ in turn will we'll work directly with Dr. Alsbury to see if we can go to the balanced governance model for evaluation this year, or if we're going to need to do something a little bit different for this first year. Most definitely next year, the intention would be that we would use the balanced governance evaluation model. The only difference between that is what we have that we can track as far as statistics. What statistics have been captured. It's not really fair to say, congratulations, CJ, it's January 21st. We're evaluating you in 6 weeks and you have no statistics. So we're going to just evaluate you based on that. So that's basically what that was. So I want to give everybody a heads up there. I should have more to report in 2 meetings, as I don't know that we'll have anything for next one. Finally, I want to echo what's been said a few different times. Thank you very much to the community for the respectful comments. And like Josh said, I don't go onto social media because it just doesn't seem to do any good for me. And there's no positivity there for me to get from. So comments in the emails and phone calls, all of them were respectful, and many of them acknowledged the trials of the board, the difficulties that face the board, and we appreciate that. It isn't the easiest of things. Sometimes it's really easy and we're like, yeah, we just go through it. But this definitely gave us a bit of run for our money on personal time, and we appreciate those comments. Again, to our collective bargaining units, thank you. And we look forward to seeing the next iteration as we continue the public side of negotiations that normally we don't see. But I'm sure that we'll be able to come to an agreement soon. And Brooke, thank you for pushing that schedule up to give us that time to be able to work through this and not have to scramble. So thank you all very much on that. And with that, we will go to accounts payable 6.01.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
There's a motion on the table. Any disclosures of record?
Have to disclose that I work for Lone Wolf and I would be abstaining from voting.
I need to disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
I'll also disclose that I have a family member who works for Wells Rural Electric, and I will also not abstain.
All righty, motion's on the table with the disclosures. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Well, I vote aye as well. Motion passes. 7.01 is our final opportunity for input from the public. Go once, going twice. We be out. Okay, 8.01 is an adjournment. Thanks all. Have a great night and safe travels.